Oh,
Hello, everyone. This is Shanae Bourne, Alejandro Bratti, and CJ Kuzler from Believe in Yourself, Believe in Your Business. And we welcome you to the Spanglish World Network on Singo TV channel 250 and 251. So please remember to download the Singo TV app on your respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. And while you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. So Singo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and also on all smart TV devices from 2016 on forward. Guys, we welcome you to our show today. Today we have an awesome guest, Donna Maltz, and we just hope that you enjoy the show.
aloha, everyone.
So thank you, Donna, for connecting with us today. This is really amazing to have you here with us. And everybody, if you want to know what is Donna, Donna is Mama Donna. That is the name that she also likes to be called to. So you are more than welcome here, Donna. Just to let you know, Donna, this is a show. We always start with your story from where are you coming before you started to believe in yourself. I know a lot. Well, some parts of your life. I know that is not a lot, but some parts of your life, and I believe this is going to be amazing. Hey, we have Jose Antonio saying good to see you, and we are happy to have you with us, Jose Antonio, today. So, Donna, the idea is to start with the part of your life that you didn't believe in yourself. From where are you coming before you started to really think that you were somebody, and how you started to move from that place to started to believe in yourself. So tell us a little bit more about your life.
Oh boy, you guys, this is such a passionate topic of mine that I'm going to just show you this now and I'll show you at the end. I actually wrote a memoir of sorts, Living Like the Future Matters, the evolution of a soul to soul entrepreneur. And it's exactly about what the memoir is about believing in yourself and falling into the depths of despairs and realizing that it can be the greatest gift when you listen to the signs and you're surrounded by beautiful people like we are here today on this call, people who also believe in you. Sometimes it doesn't matter how many people believe in us when we don't believe in ourselves. So when I was growing up, I'll be 65 and May 12th. Happy birthday, Donna.
Happy
65.
birthday.
Thank you. So that means that I was born in 1957 when women were still considered to be growing up to be housewives, school teachers, or nurses. And I had a very dominating father who was absolutely wonderful and actually did believe in me, but he believed that I should marry a lawyer and live next door, drive a Jaguar, and belong to the country club and have a college degree, be a smart housewife. So, and I grew up with two brothers. One, both, one of them bullied me. He was a couple of years older than me. And, I got a D when I was in third grade in English because they didn't know what dyslexia meant back then. I was probably a little ADHD because I was a highly creative child. But that D didn't stand for Donna. It stood for dumb to me. And so I really believed that I was going to be a dumb housewife there for part of my childhood. And if it wasn't for good friends and also me finding, I found solace in spending time in nature. And I saw how nature worked and how, yes, the weak usually becomes the prey, but also how the weak can also survive. And by no means was I weak. I was an excellent athlete. I was as good as the boys, but I was still a girl. And you guys, today it's a lot different. The women's lib movement and everything that we've seen happen in the world for women's rights has been phenomenal. But at the same time, we still only get 75 to 80% of the pay scale as a male, even though we believe more so in ourselves. So this belief that I had as a child it was a very interesting thing because the story continued. Because when I got into, well, I would go to summer camp, and I'm going to move kind of fast after this, but this is really pinnacle for business people, I think, to hear this. I was such a good camper because I didn't have to read or write, didn't have to spell anything. I could do my thing. I could keep up with the boys. So I was like the best girl. And I was going to, if I went to camp every year, just like you go to business school or you go to work every day and you get, rise the corporate ladder. Well, I was rising the corporate camper. And that next year when I came back, I was probably going to be the color war captain and camper of the year because I was so good. And that's when I started really believing myself when I was in camp and finding the things that, that I could do well. Because then I could believe, hey, I can do this. I don't have to read. I don't have to write. I don't have to spell, but I can do this really well. But I still had that insecurity thing in me from childhood that I'm not good enough. What if I'm not camper of the year? What if I'm not a good color work captain? And you know what? I didn't go back to camp that last and final year because it's like this fear of failure or belief in myself had come back from that childhood D for dumb. And I ended up going to Europe instead on a bicycle trip with a hostel with a bunch of people. And I had this hippie, totally granola hippie leader who was in her probably early 30s, late 20s. And it just showed me a whole new world. And that's kind of like where this book like really comes off when I started really believing myself. It was the best thing I ever did, even though I failed to climb the camper ladder, the corporate ladder. I realized that wasn't the right ladder for me. And this woman showed me a way, like we camped every night. I was really under the stars and eating healthy food and riding our bikes through Europe with a bunch of other kids, lost my virginity, the whole thing growing up, all that beautiful stuff that happens when you're in your late teens. So that was my journey to becoming a soul-to-soul entrepreneur, going to Europe and realizing that there was not one mall. There was no big billboards anywhere. This is in 1974. The slow food movement hadn't even started yet. But there were bakeries, boulangeries, and butcher shops, and all these villages that we rode through our bikes for. It was like, wow, I had grown up an upper middle class suburban brat, groomed to be camper of the year, groomed to be a color war captain. And I realized, no, this is the way the world is. I never wanted to see another shopping mall again. I never wanted to sleep in a house again after that. And that was my journey to becoming a soul-to-soul entrepreneur. That was the journey in believing myself. And then I went on to, when I was, went to 3 different colleges, studied organic farming in the late 70s and the early 80s, learned about regenerative agriculture and alternative forms of energy and living close to the earth. I actually got a degree called social ecology. It took me 6 years with lots and lots of experiences, and I was on a roll, and I was believing in myself. I met a man, and we drove up the Alcan Highway. You guys got to read this story. If you want to believe in yourself, you want to read this story. Anyway, we drove to Homer, Alaska in 1982 after I graduated, and having had several organic farming experiences, including running and operating my own, which gave me a huge amount of confidence and belief in myself. Again, I wasn't being graded on reading, writing, or spelling. I was being graded on my connection with the earth, which is a huge difference. So we drove our converted laundry truck.
Okay, just Donna, because you are. I know that if I leave you, you are going to talk the whole hour. But just to understand some of the points that you are talking, because now that you are moving to the organic side, that we are going to get there. But in the area that you have started to, for example, in Europe, what happened before and after? How was that process for you before you? And I'm not talking about for people what is Europe. You need to go to Europe to start to believe in yourself. But what was like your hunger behind doing that, and what was exactly what happened at the end uh, with that experience with you. And that's at the end is going to start to tell us what was the believe in yourself, how was that process of starting to believe in yourself.
Just so I make sure I understand what you're asking me, you're asking me that time period between leaving camp in Europe and when, how did that, what happened? Is that what you're asking me?
Before you decided I want to go, because anybody can tell you, okay, go to Europe. Of course, it can be go to Asia, could go to another
Mhm.
country, or go to another city. That's fine. But before you did that trip, you were thinking something. I want to change something in my life. I want to become somebody different else. I don't know. What was your thinking behind to do that type of trip?
Well, here's the thing. I was already, um, it was a way for my parents to get rid of me for the summer when I decided I didn't want to go to camp. And they knew that other people were sending their kids out on these trips. And they said, how would you like to go to Europe? And my parents had traveled to Europe. And I always thought, well, that was really cool. Sure, I'll go to Europe. And on a bicycle. And I had already gotten really into bike riding. I was really against cars. And when I was 16, they wanted me to get my driver's license, and everybody was getting their driver's license. And I said, I don't want to be part of the problem. I don't want to be polluting the air and driving a car. I'm riding my bicycle everywhere. So my parents thought it out for me. You're riding your bicycle to Europe. You want to go to Europe? And so
You went on bike to Europe then.
yeah, no, I flew there, but we rode our bikes everywhere, and so I was cycling through Europe, and I know some of the people who are listening right now, you know what happens when you're exercising and you're riding through fresh air in the country, and you're getting those endorphins going. Um, that is when your belief system comes into play. When you are looking at this incredible scenery and cows, we'd have to stop our bikes so sheep and cows could walk across the road. I believe that there could be a better way of living. I didn't know that before I left. I already had this belief system that there was something fundamentally wrong with the way I was living, and my parents knew that I needed a shift in perspective. So kudos to them for shipping me off to Europe and getting the meat out of their hair for the summer so they could play golf. With so, but when I came back, I'll have to share this with you guys because this is really important. I came back from Europe a completely changed person. I wouldn't leave my room. I put on a prison shirt that my parents got me or I bought with my own money when I went to Alcatraz the year before on a little family vacation in San Francisco. We went to Alcatraz just to see the prison and learn the history. So I bought one of those big old prison shirts, and I sat in my room with my prison shirt on until my parents would let me camp in my backyard and put in a garden. Those were my two stipulations. I wasn't going to live the way I was living anymore. I believed in myself that there was, and I believed that there was a better way than the way they were living. They didn't quite like that very much. So I sat in my room for about 3 or 4 days with food, pushed to the door. But finally, I wasn't going to give in because I believed, right? And I camped out until the first snowfall came. And with the agreement that they would let me put in the first organic garden in our entire suburb neighborhood. And I did. And that was a real transformational time for me. And then I went off to college and studied organic farming and studied small business development and realized that I wasn't going to work for the man, wasn't going to work for a corporation. I was going to figure out my own way. I believed that there was a better way. So, but one thing happened to me, and I hope did that answer your question? I hope I answered your question there.
Yes, but I am still, because you say, I feel that there is something else inside, because you are saying you came like transformed, and that's exactly what I want to know. What was that transformation, and how that transformation happened with you on that trip?
It happened when I was pedaling and
Exactly,
sweating,
that's what I want to know.
riding up these steep hills and then coming down and flying down with my hands off the handlebar and going, yes. just doing something totally out of my comfort zone and not understanding a word most people were saying, because back then in Europe, English wasn't the second language. You went to France, they spoke French. You went to Italy, they spoke Italian. You went to Switzerland, they spoke Swiss, either German or Swiss French. So, I was communicating with energy. And that was the first time I understood about the connection of and believing that you can really, truly connect energetically with people, and had beautiful relationships come through that, and brought all that back. And I believe that there are different ways that we can all project and look at life. And it's the perceptions that are put upon us that cloud us from our own perceptions of how we wish to be in the world. And thank you, Gandhi, for showing us that. But it goes beyond that. We don't want to just see the change. We want to also be the change in the world. And we have to believe that we can do that. But one thing that I did want to share with all of you, that was one epiphany. There was another belief system, like I'm going to be 65, right? So big deal. I have another 65 years left, because I believe, and I'm super healthy, and I drink green drinks, and I'm a positivity health coach, and I know how to heal my body and help others heal. But I have so much living to do, and I believe that I can do that. But I fell really, really hard. And I don't know, is it okay for me to jump to the next time?
Yes,
when
okay.
I fell out of love with myself. I fell out of belief with myself. After I graduated college, my boyfriend and I drove up in this old laundry truck to Alaska, literally ran out of money driving there, had to bake our way to Alaska. We were baking sourdough bread at our farm in Olympia, Washington. And again, these stories are in my book. They're really great stories, and they'll ignite your fire. That's for sure, to believe in yourself and to change. But anyway, we started the first organic natural foods bakery and cafe in 1982 in Homer, Alaska, really the first in Alaska. And we ran that for 4 years together. And then he had a falling out with his own demons and his own beliefs. And we parted ways. And I hired my husband a year later. And it was the best thing I ever did. And we're still together and more in love now than ever, which is something that I believe is possible for all of us if we believe in ourselves, to be in long-lasting love relationships, especially with our spouses and our children as well, because we're living like the future matters, right? But I ran this restaurant and this bakery, and I was a woman, number one. Number two, D for dumb. I couldn't balance a checkbook. But I could write copy as long as someone else did the spelling, because I was so creative. Anyway, I created this landmark business. My husband helped me run it, and we just kicked serious ass. Excuse my expression, but it was so good, and I was on fire because I believe in food for people on the planet. I believe that I could teach people how to eat really healthy, nutrient-dense food and save the planet at the same time. And that was at the time fast food restaurants were going up as family farms were being devoured. They were being eaten. People ate the Big Macs and the super size me meals, and yet my business went ballistic, because I believe that business can change the world, right? And our business changed our community. So, but what happened was I was physically fit. I told you I was into endorphins with the bicycle. I was also a dancer and a hiker. And one day I slipped on the ice, and 2 bags of groceries, 6 animals covering over me like I passed out. I blew out my back. And then a few months later, my knee gave out on me and had to have surgery. And all of a sudden I couldn't do what I did in Europe. Like you said, Alejandro, riding that, getting that. I was told I would never hike again, never ride a bike unless it was stationary on a low speed, and that I would need a total knee replacement. But they didn't want to do it yet because I was so young. and they only lasted 10 years. All of a sudden, what happens to my belief system? Ooh, I was in 37 years old when this happened. And my business was soaring. It was going ballistic. I had had a child, and I had just gone national with the first organic company, organic cocoa and chocolate syrup in the nation in 1992. Then fall on the ice. Then knee goes out. Have a baby. What am I supposed to do? I'm in so much pain all the time. Physical pain really drags you down, especially when you can't get those endorphins up. But I ended up figuring finally different ways to do that, which I'll get to. But my belief system was shattered to the core. I couldn't run around the restaurant. I got grumpy at my staff. I saw people slipping and putting soda cans in the trash, not even the recycle bin, let alone drinking soda. And people were getting more and more into fast food every day, and I couldn't keep up with it. I got up to 205 pounds. I was fat, sick, and nearly dead, and my belief system was shattered. And it took me about 3 years to come out of that. And then again, that is why I wrote the book, Living Like the Future Matters, The Evolution of the Soul to Soul Entrepreneur. We're all going to fall. We're all going to have our hard times. But there's that something inside of ourselves, that something, that belief system that only we can hold for ourselves. And part of the reason I have the sun behind me, and over my bed, I have a phoenix rising from the ashes. And that's what the sun is, rising from the darkness, and the fertility. There's life and death. It's like the systems and cycles of nature. Nothing is perfect all the time in nature either. We have droughts, we have storms.
Donna, how did you get out of that? You know, it took you 3 years, and I mean, what you've built is amazing. And how did you work through that? Because that can be very depressing. I know that I also had some injuries, and I couldn't do what I loved anymore. And that really kills you on the inside. How did you work through that?
Thank you so much for asking that question, honey. That is great. So after I went to the health clinic after a really busy season at the restaurant, and I got on the scale and it said I was 205 pounds, and I had been hiding behind these clothes for about a couple of years as the weight was coming on. And I don't know, talk about energy healing, and I don't know how all you might listen to this, take this, but hopefully you can relate. I mean, I literally had an emotional breakdown. And I sat under a tree outside the health clinic, and it was a beautiful fall day. And the leaves were the color of my sun behind me, and they were fluttering in the air. And I just was so distraught because I had been also a fitness instructor. I had been teaching aerobics classes before I blew out my knee. I was serving healthy food at my restaurant. I was Superwoman. And
Yeah.
I just had this huge pity party with myself, honey. I just completely broke down. And all I could think of at the time, my son was a few years old. And I just sat there and just cried. And I thought, oh my God, what if my son saw me like this? And my mom, who was the catalyst for me getting into health in the first place, passed away when she was 50. She had cancer when she was 32. I had already surpassed that in my age. I didn't think at that point I was going to even make it to 50 years old. And then when those leaves started flying around, my mother came into me like a phoenix, man. She kicked my ass in so much love. And I thought to myself, Mom, you got to help me. You're not here. And it was like this energy field of her embracing and really believing in the afterlife so wholeheartedly at that time. And she blew air into me as my son watched it and witnessed it. And that was I got up and I put my hand on my knee and I put my hand on my lower back. And I said, we're not getting surgery. we're going back to the belief, like, remember riding that bicycle, remember that's like a phoenix flying, right? And yeah, you know what? That was it. That's really, really all it took right there to light a fire under me. It doesn't have to be like years of psychotherapy. It has to be years of belief in yourself and going within, asking yourself, who am I? What do I love to do? And what is my purposeful why in life, which is something I teach my clients to do all the time. And we can do that in a half an hour session. And, pity parties suck, and nobody wants to sit around and see someone pathetic and not living their dreams and believing in themselves, especially when we've got things going on around the world, like we see what's happening from Ukraine to the virus to all everything going on. And so I just got over myself. So I had been wearing a knee brace all the time for a year or two at that point. 3 years at that. 4 years. This is 4 years. Every time I went to work, I had these big clunky, had all different weight knee braces, But anyway, and again, these stories are in my book, but I talk about how I found the body ecology book. I started fermenting. I love music, so I started putting on music, even though I couldn't teach aerobics or do aerobics yet. Now I dance I'm a fool of a dancer, never got a knee replacement, by the way. I hike every single day, twice a day, never got a knee replacement. But what I did do was I replaced that disbelief and put the belief back in me. I didn't believe what that doctor said to me, right? I wanted to believe that I could do this. So I started reading everything with Tao King. Alan Cohen wrote a book, The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore. So even though I'm not a good reader, there are certain things that I can read on short distances. And I found some books on tape. And we came to Hawaii that winter after I hit the 205 marker on my scale. And we were house sitting, and I started walking up this hill every day, like a little bit at a time, with my biggest knee brace on. Slow and steady, listening to the birds, listening to the winds, drinking a ton of water, following the body ecology diet, getting rid of carbs and sugars in my diet, fermenting. I started making sauerkraut, and this is in 2001. That winter, because it was 2002, winter 2001. And I started building my gut microbiome back. And I started connecting with a different family of friends who didn't know me as the woman who owned the Sourdough Express Bakery and Cafe, and that's all I was. The woman who went national with the chocolate syrup company. No, this was Donna Maltz. This was a friend, not just only a business person. I started to know who I was and what I loved to do. And my purposeful why went beyond just being a business person in this community, because I had started my restaurant when I was 25 years old. And here I am, 37, 38, and who am I? I'm somebody who loves to ride the bike. I'm somebody who loves to exercise. I started getting into the ocean every day. And I know that everybody who's listening to this can get in the ocean every day, but that's salt water and being in the ocean every day. Within 3 weeks, I started walking to the top of the hill with my brace. And this was a steep hill. And within 4 weeks, I took the brace off.
Wow.
I lost 10 pounds. And I felt like I lost 100 because I lost that mental disbelief in myself, lost that abusive mindset. And then I started doing it twice a day, and I swam every day, and I focused on self-care, self-love, self-healing. We had shut down our restaurant for the winter, and I was making new friends. And by the end of 4 months, I had lost almost 30 pounds. And I was no longer fat, sick, or nearly dead. I was alive and thriving. I was the phoenix coming out of the coal, out of the fire. And, but the challenge was then taking that belief system and that attitude that I acquired over those 4 months, and I had to open my restaurant. And I was back with milkshakes and brownies, even though they were organic. And I was back with, big burritos and, fish tacos and you name it, local, of course. Everything very sustainably minded, but it was all delicious and we still made chocolate chip cookies, But somehow I managed to maintain. And then I started moving here. Part of the year we bought a house in 2004 in Hawaii where I live now. And my husband took more charge of the restaurant. I sold my national company, which was a huge relief. I sold it actually in 2000, the following winter after I had the crash. I sold it, and that took a lot of the pressure off. But people who are listening to this, if you can just appreciate one thing, I'm a living testament. If you believe in yourself, believe in your body, you can heal, not just physically, emotionally, and spiritually. When we believe in ourselves, we allow spirits in the spirit world, whether they're our ancestors of blood or kin to another lifestyle, if we believe, we are able to heal ourselves. So now, I don't know if did that answer your question. You asked me to talk about my story, and I wrote a 400-page book about it because I believe it'll help people. So I got lot more stories. So you just ask me anything you want, honey. Thank you for having me. By the way, this is such an honor to be here and share with you all.
It's lovely to have you here. But yes, it is so inspiring to hear about your transformation, especially about your mental transformation. Because if you believe you can do something, it will happen because you'll make it happen because of your belief. And that is really admirable.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now I'm going through another transformation. I wrote a journal and also wrote another book during the peak of the pandemic called Conscious Cures, Soul, SOUL, Solutions to 21st Century Pandemics. And I wrote this book to get people to the root cause of why we're having a health pandemic. And it is, so much of it is a mental obstacle that is keeping people trapped in this hamster wheel or cycle of doubt and self-worth, self-worthlessness, and allowing these other pandemics, the political, economic, food and drug, fear, media, conspiracy, inequality, the media, all the stuff telling you what to do, who you are. And I say, turn it off and turn yourself on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I find it amazing the transformation that can happen when we have not primarily a physical, but a spiritual, an emotional, an internal transformation, a mental transformation. You talk about your transformation. I can really relate to the weight loss. I mean, I lost over 50 pounds in 5 months just by changing a few things, and it wasn't intentional. I really believe that was Father God who shared with me to no more soda. Like I haven't touched one since the revelation of that night. And, from fast food to fasting from food. So some changes. So occasionally doing water fast. At that time, it was weekly, doing a 1-day water fast, fasting and praying, and the importance of, seeking the creator of all things. And the shift that happens mentally and physically was just a byproduct. Losing the pounds was not my goal. It's just the transformation was seen and people would make comments. Also, it helps that, the food lifestyle is supported by my significant other. She is very health conscious, so it's very important to surround yourself with people. Alejandro drinks green juice just like you do on a regular basis. So I had a little chuckle when you shared that. So having those kind of things, I'm just curious along the way of transformation, as you shared, climbing the hill, being in the ocean, being in the right environment is very helpful. I'm curious just what the byproduct of the physical change, how much of that came simply from nutrition?
Well, that's a really good question. I share with my clients that it's not what you eat, it's what you digest. Because you can have the best nutrition in the world, but if you have leaky gut and you have a sour mind, you're going to have rotten bowel movement. You're not going to feel, you're going to say, I spent all this money on supplements and I'm eating organic and I'm eating fruits and vegetables and lean meat and whatever. But that mental attitude, like Shayna, you were saying, is so important, because somebody can be screaming at you mentally and telling you you're this, you're that, you're that. But it's back to that word perception. It's back to the notion that how we perceive it, we can choose to walk away from it and never come back. We can choose to see that soda can and never go back to it. It's a choice. It's those choices that we have to make. So eating super high quality, nutrient dense food and knowing how to prepare it is one thing. But understanding that one bite at a time, each and every one of us can change the world with our food choices, because everything we eat and how we eat affects all living things, all of life kind, from the smallest microorganism to the largest mammal in the world, to the biggest mountain, to the sea. Everything that we eat affects everything else. So that brings us back to God, universe, or whatever. So when you're eating food, it's a spiritual act. I call my kitchen the altar of my home. That is where we sacrifice the animal, even though we don't butcher it, or the carrot. It's a sacrifice. It's giving a life for a life. And I truly, truly believe that eating is not just a spiritual act, not just an environmental act. It's an act to live like the future matters, because everything we eat affects our children's future. There's only 60 years of arable soil left, farmable soil. The deserts are drying up to the worst dust balls that we've ever imagined. The rainforests are being decimated as we speak. So when we think about, oh, I'm taking care of my health and I'm doing good and I'm having my green drink and all that stuff, I go way beyond that. And I'd say to you, that's really great. I really, really want to acknowledge you for making these really good food choices. But our belief systems have been captured and completely manipulated by the industrial food complex. And if we are not, and if you don't believe that, just watch a commercial. One will tell you to eat this crappy box of cereal, and the next one will tell you to take this drug to counteract from eating that crappy cereal. You go into the grocery store, and the pharmacy is as large as the produce section. So the very same drugs that are in that grocery store are there to counteract the food from the grocery aisles. So what I like to say, to get to your questions, CJ, is it goes beyond what you put in your mouth and your mind and your spirit. It goes into looking at the whole economics of the industrial food complex and the food chain, and to believe that, wow, I'm going to make a difference with my career. I'm going to make a difference with the way I treat my children and feed my children, my community, support my local farmers, become a local farmer. The average age of a farmer is 58 and a half years old. And there's not enough people out there growing food. It's the most noble profession there is. And like, we value a martini over asparagus. We evaluated a fancy car over preserving an acre of land. Well, people will pay more money for a stupid car than to protect the environment for their children on an acre of land and grow food. Doesn't even take an acre, takes a quarter acre. So nutrient dense food is really, really important to take care of the human cells in the human body. But it's not going to heal the problems of the world. And it might not even necessarily heal anybody who's listening to this, and you're eating really good and you're taking all the right supplements and you're exercising and all of that. That's really, really good. But we have to go to the next level. We have to go to that belief system and who's telling you what to believe in, who's telling you to believe that these medications over the counter or on the counter are going to take care of your problem. I call that a solution. And I also call a solution taking a kid who's screaming, putting duct tape on their mouth, throwing him in the closet, and they're quiet. It's putting a Band-Aid on the problem. That's why I coined the word solution, S-O-U-L, solution. We need to go to that soul level. We need to look at the root cause of the pandemics or the problems that are happening in our from our digestive system to the digestive system of the earth, which is the soil, the microbiome of the soil. Same, it's in our gut microbiome. And we need to address the root causes of these problems. Because even if you're eating something that was grown organically and all this stuff, doesn't mean that the farmer next door wasn't using genetically modified chemicals on a genetically modified field. And these are big problems to tackle, but we can do it. There's a huge collective of people, of conscious humans who are doing incredible work in regards to doing their best to protect the soil and protect the future for our children. The only problem is there's not enough people supporting them and becoming them. It's up to all of us to become them. And then our food, when we eat it, and the nutritional components of that food will not just heal our own individual. And I don't want to say, I think self-care, if you don't do self-care, it's selfish. That's one thing I say. But you can overindulge in anything, including self-care. What good is it if you're healthy and the world is falling apart and you're not doing your part in making the world a better place?
Absolutely. Donna, something that really pops for me from what you're sharing right now, a couple of words that start with D. One of them is digestion. And you talked about the importance of not just eating or consuming, but digesting. The other one that really pops for me is making a difference, for each of us to make a difference. And as I thought about earlier on in the conversation, you talked about getting D's and thinking that it means dumb. So there's all these D words, right? When I was in school, in university, doing my undergrad, one of the sayings that was going around, we joke about, is D's get degrees. At the end of the day, it's still a pass and you can still go do your thing, right?
That's so great.
It's just great to hear that. Like, you went on to do something and to develop something that you're passionate about. But it came down to the difference that you wanted to make, that intrinsic value that you wanted to bring through the world through your passion, that difference. It sounds like it's your intrinsic why. I'm curious, you talk about doing a half-hour session, and our time is coming short now, but I want to ask you this question. If there's one or two quick things that in that half hour that you would bring a person through to get them to digest the difference they would make to come to their intrinsic why, what would those one or two questions be? Oh, geez, looks like we froze.
Yeah, she froze.
Just when I was about to get juicy too.
No, but for everybody that is here with us, I think that I was going to ask this question about like living like the future matters, and right now the whole conversation has been talking exactly about that. How she started to transform herself, to started to understand that, okay, if I have something like struggles, that suddenly I lose my knee, and there is a lot of struggles that are going to stop you with the amazingness that you have right now, or the thing that you are loving. You need to find a way to go back to your dream and the thing that you want to do. And for her was moving to Hawaii, and she had the opportunity to do that, and for us can be another thing. But understanding that we need to live the life like it really matters, and that we need to have a purpose, and we need to understand that there is a purpose for us, for everything that we are doing. That's for me the main message today was, if you are living like you have a purpose and you are living on your purpose, you are living well. It doesn't matter where are you or what are you doing. But if you are feeling like you are not, you are just living and you are just happening and nothing else, you are here just because, and there is no answer for anything, you need to start to look for answers, and you need to start to look inside of you. It's not what everybody else is saying about the thing that you are, but it's more about who you are saying that you are inside of you, from the inside. And that's what we are doing, the three of us, Shanae, CJ, and me. When we are working on this, that's what unites us. When we started to talk, if you start to see even the books that we have written, it's about transformation, about purpose, and creating that purpose. So you're back, Donna. This is amazing. There is one final. I don't know if you listen to the question from CJ. We have only like a couple of minutes, not more than that. But go ahead, CJ, and do it quickly. And Donna, today this answer is going to be a phrase, something very simple, because we are almost at the end of the show.
So yeah, I think getting through from the season of discouragement, like from going through with your knee and going through, okay, I'm discouraged, but how do I get this determination to get to my destination? Maybe you could ask a couple questions that you'd ask, one or two questions or a quote or two that would make a difference, say in that 30-minute session, that perhaps you can share with our viewers today that would help get through to the next level, to find that why.
Oh, we don't hear you.
Yeah, somehow you're on mute, Donna. Oh no. Yeah, not sure what's happening. We still can't hear you. I don't know if you see underneath the screen, there's a little microphone button. Yeah, and it's not working. So maybe
Okay, maybe let's finish with. Let's try to connect and reconnect, Donna. That can help. And in the meanwhile, just CJ, from your point of view, what was the main message for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to go through seasons. I mean, I'm in the middle of one right now, and life is not just a straightforward plane. Had a prophetic session with Naomi the other day that they talked about the cycles of life, and there's dips, and the entrepreneurial journey is like this up and down thing. There's dips, but then there's the upward cycle. And instead of getting lost in hopelessness, which is easy to do, to get discouraged in that low point, like the hurt knee or whatever it is, being too far overweight, but pushing through that and looking and saying there's a trajectory ahead that we can push forward and push into. Hopefully, Donna, we have you back this time. Wondering if we'll be able to hear you. No, well, I can see you're saying, but
No.
No, that's too bad.
So, Shanae, what are your two things that you learned from today? I know that there is a lot.
Yes. The main thing for me is living your purpose. And it's so amazing that we all have purpose in life. I mean, that's why we're on this earth, is to live the life that you were designed to live and have the impact that you were designed for, or that you were born for. And it's so liberating how it makes you feel once you live your purpose. And sometimes it's still a struggle. It's not going to be like sunshine and roses all the time. Although a lot of the time it is sunshine and roses. It's a lot of figuring out. And for me, living my purpose is just phenomenal. I love doing it. And that's why we help people to live in their purpose, and also to make a business out of it to fuel their purpose. So that was the main takeaway for me from this. And I think it's really important to do that dig inside yourself to find your purpose, and find your why you're doing certain things, and see how you can make the best impact in the world.
Right on.
Awesome. And if you really want to connect with Donna or with anybody of us to understand how we can help you with exactly what you are doing right now, we are here for you. If you are going through a process that you don't know what is happening, and for example, CJ was saying, I am going through a season right now that he is learning a lot of stuff, but he can take two decisions when he's at that moment. It's like he can decide, like, I do it by myself or I look for somebody else.
Yeah.
And the idea here is you have people, and there is people here. We are here to help you if you are going through that. Just ask for help, really, and that's it. Doesn't have to be us. You can go to another person also, but you need to find a person that is willing to help you and is also willing to ask you the hard questions, the things that are inside of you that you don't want to ask yourself, and you are willing to do the things and the exercises and the changes inside. Everything is deep inside first. So thank you everyone that was here with us. Thank you, Mama Donna. It was amazing. You shared your heart today, and thank you for that.
Alejandro, just before we go, if anyone is interested in having a conversation with Alejandro, CJ, and I, you can go to shaneborn.com. You can just take the spelling off of my name as SHANEIBORN, as in you were born.com. There's a space there to fill in your information, and we'll contact you to make an appointment so that we can just have a little chat with you with regards to your purpose and what it is that you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And yes, really, it's not a selling call. It's a call to connect with you and understand what are you going through, and from there we can start to see what are the needs that you have, and we can also refer to you, even Donna, if you really want to connect. We are here to help you. That's the heart behind Donna. I know that's why I'm telling you this. This is the heart behind CJ, the heart behind Shanae and myself. So we are here to help you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for today's session. It was a hard session, so I love it. It was great. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out SpanglishWorld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thank you all. Thank you, Mama Donna. Bye-bye.
Thank you.